Welcome to the Dear Teenage Girl podcast. To all you fearfully and wonderfully made women, just a reminder that God loves you, you're fully known, you are fully seen, and God has a plan and a purpose for you and your life, and it's going to be better than you ever expected. I'm your host, Amy. Welcome to the Dear Teenage Girl podcast, or welcome back to the Dear Teenage Girl podcast. I'm wearing a dress today, so I guess I have to sit ladylike, which is kind of awkward because I'm like on this bench that I usually like to get crisscross applesauce in. But we're gonna try and stay as ladylike as possible for as long as possible because I'm not good at sitting and not having my legs up like crisscross applesauce. That's probably like my worst habit is when I'm at like the dinner table, I always have to be like crisscross applesauce, or like when I'm driving, like my one leg is always like up. I find it really hard to keep my legs down like this, but we'll try. Okay, anyway, welcome back. This is part 3 of my birthday series because I just turned 19, and it is like 19 things I've learned in like my 19 years of life. So we are on number 11, but just a recap, let me go back for you. Number 1, choose your friends wisely. If you haven't seen the other 2 episodes, I suggest you go back and see the other 2 episodes, because if you have seen the 2 episodes, then I like did a recap last episode and then I went full detail into it first episode, so I don't want to like bore those who are here again for the 3rd time. So anyway, number 1, choose your friends wisely, your distant friends and your close friends, but make sure that your close friends are Christians. Number 2, be a good friend to all. 3, forgive others. 4, love everyone. 5, pray on the armor of God daily. 6, prioritize prayer and gratitude. 7, don't let guilt prevent you from God's word. 8, give God your first fruits of the day. 9, find someone you can trust and open up to them. And 10, don't let the fear of what others think of you stop you from your calling that God has on you. And then today, number 11 through to 19, number 11 is be yourself. And so I would say that in like a matter of like, be yourself, be who God made you to be. So God, if what you're doing is like a sin, but you're saying, oh, I'm just being myself, I would say no, because God would never call you to be sinful. Like, God made us perfect, but then sin entered the world. And yes, sometimes we are going to sin and we're going to have the desires of the flesh, and we're going to not always be following who God calls us to be because there is sin in the world, but don't strive for that. Strive to be who God is calling you to be. God's calling us to live for Him, right? And we're children of God, and so He wants us to be disciples for Him, and we're made in His image, right? So like He has the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. We have the flesh, the soul, and the spirit as well, and so in having that spirit, we can, and once we're saved, we get like the fruits of the Spirit, and being in God's image, we want to reflect who He is, right? So if you being you is like not how, or is disregarding what God says, and it's not aligning up with scripture and what God has told us, then that's not what I'm trying to promote. What I am trying to promote is be who God calls you to be, and don't change for others. If you're changing because you want to better yourself and in your relationship with God, or if you're changing because maybe a mentor or someone who has a strong relationship with the Lord and knows you really well comes up to you and say, here, I see that like maybe you're struggling in this aspect of your life. I'm going to be praying over you, but I think you should be praying over this aspect of your life and really trying to like change that so that you're living more for God, then yeah, change that and take that in consideration and pray about it. And if you feel convicted, okay, yes, this person's right. And not always like just by like a feeling like I feel convicted, so okay, they're right, because sometimes like maybe our pride or our stubbornness might be like, I don't know what they're talking about. Like that's absolutely like not necessary at all. But yeah, just be yourself and live for God, and don't let what other people think of you like stop you from being yourself. Which brings me into number 12, is just don't be such a people pleaser. I am a people pleaser. I let people walk all over me all the time. I was actually working at the school, and my principal said, oh, like I know, or my vice principal, oh, like I know what it's like when you're quiet. People will take advantage of that and just walk all over you. And I really appreciated that she realized that, hey, I'm a sweet, quiet person, but that she's not going to walk all over me, because I've had so many people in my life who have taken advantage of that. I'm not talking about anyone in specific. It's not even like a specific few people. It's been so many people in my life that have seen that I am a quieter person, that has seen that I'll just like go with the flow, and then they've taken advantage of it a lot. And it's really degrading for me as a person, but at the same time, it's like if I'm making them happy, then I don't have to be happy. But it's like at the same time, that's like going too far. Like, of course, like as a child of God, we want to serve others, right? I think that's so important. But I think that there also has to be a boundary and a limit. Like in a friendship, if it's a continual thing, I was working in the RRP room for it's a room where kids who have special needs, it's like a specific classroom for them. And the teacher was teaching, I was an EA, and she said that when you're in a friendship, there should be compromises. And she said that she was going out with a friend that weekend, and the event, she's not super big into what the event was, but she knew that her friend was, so she was gonna go. But she also knew that if she had an event that she wanted her friend to go with, even if her friend wasn't really big into it, that she would go with her, because that's a good friendship where you do have compromises for other people's likes, but it's not like it's like not like you're always doing what the other person wants you to do and you're not getting anything in return, because friendship isn't supposed to be selfish, but it should also be rewarding, you know. And so I talked a lot about friendships earlier, so I'm not going to go into that, but I am going to go into that. It's kind of in like the last 2 points, kind of like tie in together, is to yeah, don't like let people like judge you and make that change who you are. And don't be a people pleaser to the fact where you're like maybe compromising your values or you're compromising yourself. Because I have found that in so many situations, and it's like I've prayed for forgiveness and I've asked for forgiveness from like my parents or whoever, but like I'm a pretty good kid, but I've ended up in situations I definitely did not want to end up in because I was trying to please others. Like I have a friend and she wanted to sneak out to go see boys, um, and then that was hard on me because I didn't want to sneak out, um, but I also wanted her to like me and I wanted her approval. So I went and snuck out and I told my mom what I was doing like the whole time. I was like, hey, this is what's going on. And she's like, okay, like, thank you for telling me. Um, and so it ended up being an okay situation, but it also could have gone like south, like if the guys weren't good guys, or like if we get caught, she's gonna blame it all on me, which it definitely was not my idea. I definitely wasn't comfortable with it at all. But yeah, so that was really hard. I've had other circumstances like that. I've also had it where it's like I was super excited to have this opportunity, but maybe family members weren't super thrilled with me, or not with me, but they weren't really thrilled about maybe the opportunity, and they made their opinions known. And of course, I'm really open to other people's opinions in my life because I don't want to be living my life like with rose colored glasses on, not even just for a relationship, but just for life in general, because I want to be living my life for Christ and bettering my life. And if I have role models or people in my family that I know are living their life for the Lord, if they have input in my life, I definitely want to listen and take it into consideration. Like, that's what I've always wanted, because I don't want to just be stuck in my own ways, but I want to be able to grow and see people's points of views and see people's sides. Like, I'm a really open person to all of that. But there weren't really like legit reasons why they weren't excited for like this opportunity, and it just took a really big toll on me, because I felt like I couldn't bring it up. I feel like I couldn't talk about it. I felt like I couldn't be happy about it. I felt like I couldn't be excited. I couldn't celebrate about it, because I knew that some people weren't super thrilled about it, and I didn't want them thinking less of me if I went forward with the opportunity. So I didn't go forward with the opportunity. There were a few other reasons why I didn't go forward with the opportunity, but I would say that that was the biggest reason, because I wanted the approval so badly, especially from family members. That's like the biggest thing. My grandparents, I look up to them so much, and I want them to love me. I want them to support me. I want them to be proud of me. I want them to be happy with me. And so, yeah, that's just where it gets really deep. And anyway, those are just a few examples. But I would just say, don't let people walk all over you, because A, that's going to get you nowhere in life, and B, it's like, it's not going to help you to grow as a person. And so that's something that I've been trying to do, is I've been trying to like cut out the friendships that have been like that. And it's been really hard for me, because it's like you remember like all like the good times or whatever, and you're like blindsided by like everything that they like put you through. And this isn't about a specific friend group. It's about it's like about different people. But don't let people walk all over you. Another thing that I would say is that God's plan and purpose is best. And I know that I've talked about this in previous podcast episodes, and I know that I've been pretty open about my health on the podcast. It's something that I am open about on the podcast, because I want people who can relate and see that, okay, there's other people like me, but it's definitely not something that I'm really open to about in my personal life. I mean, if people have questions, and I'll tell them, but I'm not really one to go around and like talk about my health problems. Like, I do know people that it's like they will like meet a new person, and then they'll like just like unload everything on them, like their whole like medical history, and that's not me at all. I'm pretty reserved. I keep things to myself. But all that to say is that I did have a big health situation, and I remember like when I was in the middle of everything, I was having like 30 seizures a day, and the seizures weren't short. They'd be like probably no shorter than 2 minutes, and more like 5 to 10, 15, 20 minutes each. Of course, not all of them were that long, but most of them were on the longer side. And it was just really hard for me, and I was like, I know that God has a plan, I know that God has a purpose, and I would hold tight to that, and I would cling to that, because that was the only thing that kept me going. Because in like the worldly view, everything had been taken away from me. Like, I lived in a small town, all I wanted to do was get out, but I couldn't get out anymore, because I was dependent on my parents, I was dependent on my family. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go out. Like, I lost my driver's license. I lost my freedom. I felt like I lost everything. And I remember just crying to my mom one night. I'm like, Mom, I'm trying to be so strong. But I just can't do this anymore. Like, I know God has a plan. I know God has a purpose. But will I ever get out of this? Like, what good can come out of this? And I wouldn't say that at this point in my life, now I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that happened to me because of this. But I would say that the biggest thing that I am grateful for that came out of all of this was now that I know what career path I want to take, and I am confident in like going to school and taking a different career path than I originally thought I was going to take. Has been really beneficial. A little backstory, both of my parents are teachers, and so I think everyone always expected me to be a teacher growing up, and as a people pleaser at first I was like, oh yeah, I'll be a teacher, but then I was like, absolutely not. I do not want to be a teacher, because I just wanted to be my own person. I don't want to be Ian's daughter or Maurice's daughter, I wanted to be Amy. And so I had completely ruled out teaching. But then being sick, I had to take a gap year, couldn't go to school. The first half of the year, I was like really focusing on like my health, so I wasn't able to work. It was just so hard mentally. I didn't have people in the area that I could hang out with. So that was like such a hard year. I was like so frustrated. Am I ever going to get out? Is this ever going to be okay? And then in the new year of 2023, I got a job at the school. My mom had recommended that I do emergency supply teaching. And because we were so in need of supplies, if you're American, substitute teachers, because we're so in need in my small little town, they'll like basically take anyone. So I just had to like watch a few videos, and then I could be a substitute or a supply teacher. And I've just really enjoyed it, and I've decided, okay, I want to be a teacher now, and I want to go to school for that. And so it's been great, just having that opportunity to work in the school, realize that I do love teaching, just being a light in the school, letting God shine through me at the school. I've definitely seen that like people notice that I am happier, or I just get along with everyone so well, and I'm not like a super judgmental person or anything. I just let Christ just shine through me, and I've just really had a great experience, which makes me so excited for school because I know like I picked the right choice. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I'm really glad with how things worked out with the school that I'm gonna go to. Everything just fell right into plan. And it's like 2 years ago, I would never have thought that any of this would ever have happened in my life. But I had such a different like mindset and such a different path that I was gonna follow. And that's like 1 year ago today. I didn't think I'd ever be able to get out of my bed. But then it's like now it's like, okay, I'm still not thrilled that it happened. Like, I'm not like, I'm so glad that I had seizures, and no, that's definitely not it in the slightest. But I also see how God used it for good. And so it's not that God gave me the seizures, because God doesn't give you anything that has to do with sin, because God is perfect, right? But we do live in a sinful world. And so I did have sickness, and that's put my life on hold. But through that, God was so faithful because he was with me the whole time. And then also he helped to turn it for good. um, and yeah, so that is something that I am, and I'm so happy about, that it did turn out for good, which I knew it would. But it's like when you're in that moment, you're like, is this ever gonna get better? It will. Trust me, it will get better. Maybe you won't get healed, but it will get better, because God will make his presence known. And where God is, there's nothing better than that. Just being in God's presence, which you always are, but sometimes you don't always realize it or see it or feel it. But I'm here to tell you that it gets better. I promise. Okay, so I think it's number 14 and 15. They kind of go hand in hand. But 14 is beauty standards change, and 15 is your inside is what makes you truly beautiful. So, so for 14, beauty standards change. There's been different beauty standards all over the decades. Like, sometimes they want you to wear more makeup, sometimes less makeup, sometimes they want your eyebrows to be bushy, sometimes they want your eyebrows to be thin, sometimes they want you to be thin, sometimes they want you to have an hourglass shaped body, sometimes they want you to have whatever the body is, sometimes blondes hair is in, sometimes brown hair is in, sometimes bob cuts in. Okay, not on my paper, you're distracting people. Sometimes to have a bob is in, sometimes you want to have the longest hair with extensions. Sometimes it's in to have your hair back, sometimes it's in to have your hair down. All of these things change, and I think that a lot of girls put way too much focus and pressure on the beauty standard that's in. And I know I did too. I've been pretty open with the fact that I have been diagnosed with anorexia. And again, that's not usually something I talk about, but on the podcast, I just want to be really real and honest with people, because there are other people that are going through this as well. And I want them to see how I've like looked to the Lord and how my faith hasn't changed. in a negative way just because these things are happening to me, but it can actually change in a positive way as well. And so I was struggling with anorexia. I put a lot of pressure on myself to look like these beauty standards, to look like Gigi Hadid, to look like Kendall Jenner. And I don't necessarily have those images in my head when I'm like not eating, or when I see the ideal perfect version of myself. I don't really see those people, but they're all gorgeous and they're all skinny, and they're who everyone loves and whoever guy wants to be with, and whoever girl wants to be. And Bella Hadid, who's the most beautiful woman in the world, scientifically, is so skinny and slim. And I look at other people, and like when I was a kid and I saw girls with bigger thighs, like I thought that was so cool. That's what I wanted. I wanted to, like, I had bigger thighs and I was like, wow, they are so pretty. Maybe I can be pretty like that as well. Like, I didn't look at people who were bigger and think they're not beautiful because they're bigger. Or I didn't look at someone who was a brunette and think they're not beautiful because they're not blonde. I would never do that to anyone else. But for some reason, I was doing that to myself because the world has put such a big emphasis on diet culture, and you need to be skinny, and when it's summer you need to have your summer body. And so I tried to get that in, and it wasn't working. And so then I tried other methods, like excessively working out and starving myself for weeks and weeks and months. And that got me nowhere, because I might have gotten a bit skinnier, but my inside went for the worst because I was so consumed mentally, not like thinking that I was prettier, because I've never liked the way that I've looked, and I don't think, or I hope I do someday, but probably not like for a little bit. I'm still trying to heal from that. But what I'm trying to say is, it's not like I started liking my outside anymore, the skinnier I got, or whatever I did with my hair, or how I did my makeup that day. But what I also started not liking was my inside, because I used to be so happy and carefree, and now I'm so concerned on how many calories I'm eating. And it's not like I became like this petty person, but I just became so hyper focused on like things that didn't really matter, like calories and eating and stuff. And then that took away from my internal beauty and who I really am as a person. And then which goes into 15, which is like your the beauty from your inside is like what really makes you beautiful. And just focus on that. Don't focus on your outside, it's on who you are on the inside. And also, I can't stress this enough, work inside out. If you don't like who you are on the outside, work on who you are on the inside first. Work on strengthening your relationship with God. Work on really trying to have the fruit of your spirit in your life. And I think I haven't gotten to this point, but I think that once you start to like who you are on the inside, and once you really start to live for God, and once you really start focusing on the inside, then to you, your outside is gonna look beautiful. But to everyone around you, for sure, you're gonna look beautiful on the outside when you look beautiful on the inside. And I think that everyone is beautiful and unique in their own way. So, but like to yourself, I think that's what really matters. But to others, what should and really matter is who you are on the inside. So focus on that, because that's what truly makes you beautiful, and that's the natural beauty that everyone should have. Okay, so number 16, I would say, is don't find your worth in other people. Like, don't look for other people to validate you, like whether that be a boy, whether that be the ideal relationship, whether that be with friends, best friends, whether that be with family members. Like, don't put your worth in those people, because people will fade away, people will come and go, but God remains the same. God is a constant. So you want to find your worth in who God is, and that is just going to be really beneficial for you to learn at a young age and to carry on throughout your life. Because I know for the longest time I would put so much worth in like who I had like a thing with, or like being in a relationship, or like having a popular best friend or something. And like that was all when I was like younger. In high school, I didn't really care about like popularity. I focused on that so much, and it didn't get me anywhere. and the friendships faded, the relationships faded, the situationships faded, and I was left feeling emptier. So put your worth in God, not in people. And then number 17 would be live in the moment. Don't live for your phone. Like, I know during quarantine it was really hard because our phone was like all we really had, and so we spent a lot of time on our phones and watching shows, and I'm so guilty of like I get so invested in shows. It's like I wish I was those characters in the shows because their lives are so much more interesting than mine. But that's not gonna benefit you in your real life. It's just wasting time, taking up time. And so I would suggest not doing that, but really living in the moment, really making your life count and making your life worth it and making your life for God. That's so important because, like, social media, like, I'm not saying don't have a phone, don't go on your phone. I go on my phone a lot and I watch a lot of Netflix. But what I'm saying is don't let it consume you or overtake your life, because that's not the life that we're supposed to live. We're supposed to live a life with other people and outside and in nature and living for God. And yeah, you can live for God by using social media, but I wouldn't recommend being on it all hours of the day. And then number 18 is just to keep growing as a person. Keep really trying to find different hobbies and stuff that you really like to do, because that's so important, just to keep discovering who you are and like what you like. But in what you like I'm someone that likes music, so I think that's important for me to keep learning new instruments and perfecting it, and not just sorry and not just like living in a rut, because that's so easy to do. I know for someone who battles with depression and anxiety, it's so easy for me just to want to like lay in bed all day, but I need to focus more on like what makes me happy and different hobbies, and that's really key. And then number 19, the last one, I actually got this advice just before my 19th birthday on our Florida trip from a family friend, which was during March break. And that advice was, if you knew that the world was ending tomorrow, what would you do to change your life? And she said that the answer should be nothing. You should be living every single day like it's your last, and you should be like, not in the way where it's like party all day every day, get drunk with your friends, no, but like living your life for God every single day like it's your last. Like, if you knew that the rapture was happening tomorrow, you shouldn't be like running around like a chicken with its head cut off trying to get people to know Christ and trying to get people saved. You should be well, not running around like a chicken with its head cut off, but you should be trying to get people saved every single day. Like, not forcing religion down their throat, but like encouraging them to become a Christian and showing God's love. And I think that that just wraps every or most of the things up that I have been talking about today, because we should be living every day like it's our last. We should be living every single day like the rapture is going to happen tomorrow, and really wanting to live for God and have other people start living for God. So just because you found out, oh, the world's ending tomorrow, nothing should really change, because then if something does change, are you really living for a purpose? Are you really living for God? Or are you living for yourself and just enjoying the world and like whatever? Or are you purposefully living for God? And I know that it's hard, and you're not going to do that all the time. And that's something that I always knew in the back of my head. But when she said it, I really had to like stop and think and be like, wow, this is really, really important and good advice, that I need to take to heart. And yeah, so that's number 19. So these are some things that I've learned, and I hope that maybe you've learned something or you've been convicted by something. And I'll see you guys next week.